Hey everyone, it's Ophi from the AstroTwins. Welcome back to STARSTRUCK. I am here with the lovely Leo, Aliza Kelly. Hey Aliza!
Hey!
Aliza is a resident astrologer at Cosmo, an author, host, and multi-hat wearing astrologer.
Capricorn rising.
Yes, our two Capricorn risings. It was only natural that we talked about business, of course. We know that many of you guys are either in the astrology or wellness or spiritual services business, which is booming according to all the articles.
According
that were
to
written.
every Pew study.
Yes, every study. It's a $2 billion.
$2.1 billion mystical service industry.
Right. Wow. This mystical service industry awaits many of you guys in the 2020s. So we wanted to share some of our experiences, and I want to talk to Aliza about hers. To help you succeed in making the world a little more mystical. It needs it, still needs it. So, welcome, Aliza.
Thank you. I'm so excited. This is so amazing.
Yeah. How's biz? How's life? What are you working on the most now?
Well, biz is good. Sort of a answer to your question, and then also one of my recommendations for people who are trying to break into the mystical service industry, which first of all, I guess let's take a step back and define this.
Let's define.
Of course, the mystical service business industry includes astrology, but it's also tarot, numerology, crystal work, Reiki, any sort of divination practice, psychic, intuitive work, even if you're doing intuitive drawing, intuitive tattoos. So there's a whole channeling. Yes, there is a whole range of things that fall into this mystical service industry. But what's most important at the end of the day is that you are connecting and picking something that you feel truly passionate about. And that is something that is really speaking to your soul. I would never work with a healer who was not in the process of healing themselves. I would never work with an astrologer who didn't use...
side of it.
Yes. I would never work with an astrologer who wasn't using astrology to help inform their life, You want to work with somebody who is passionate. So if you're thinking about moving into this space, you definitely want to make sure that you are working with material that you are passionate and excited by.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's very important to have a very diverse portfolio. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, so
Don't quit your day job to shuffle tarot cards.
Yes, so it's whether you're doing events and writing, or you're doing vlogs, or you're doing, you're writing a book, you're working with publishers, you're doing work with different brands, whatever it is, make sure that you have a hand in all of the different finger in pies, whatever that creepy image is, because that will really help sustain your business, especially if there's one point where you're not getting as many clients. It's good because you have a stable writing gig somewhere else. So a big part is diversification. Yeah. But then if you're like me, you end up diversifying so much that your calendar looks like a crazy calendar.
That happens to astrology is, and mystical services too. It is a lot of work because a lot of people start out with one-on-ones. You start I'm good at this. I'll do readings for friends, and then they'll recommend me, and then I'll start charging, and then you get booked up, and then you've got writing, you've got bookings, you've got events, you've got to, go from the one-on-one in your pajamas with the cat or the dog on your lap to out in public. So,
yes, and not everything is for everyone. You may find that you really like doing one-on-one sessions, and that is the thing that really inspires and energizes you. You may find that you're super drained by the end of them, and you much prefer writing or doing
social
events.
Media.
Yes.
Some people really thrive on there, while others are like, another live. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, but to that point, you have been using technology since the early days. You had one of the first astrology apps, Align, which is an astrology dating app.
Yes, it's when we first connected.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I love it. I forgot what we connected about. I think I was going to maybe even write a little something for it, but whatever it was a great idea. You and another Leo.
Yes.
So So what did you learn from Align? Because it was out there maybe even ahead of its time.
It was definitely ahead of its time.
I know how that goes. So yeah, you were the crash test dummy for the booming app business.
Well, I would like to think that, when we hear and we read all of these articles that are like, astrology is booming right now, like, there's a reason it is. There's a reason that astrology is so part of the zeitgeist at this moment. And now I'm leaning into my Leo energy. I would like to think that Ophi and I, the AstroTwins, and early adopters of technology who were really using the fundamentals and the techniques to bring it into the modern sphere, to use new language, to be able to sort of take it out of that new wave or new age movement, I should say, of the 60s and 70s, and to bring in a modern contemporary vernacular, are really sort of the foremommies of this new astrology movement. So back in 2014, I was living in Los Angeles. I was single, cranky, disillusioned, classic
Leo moment.
And myself and my co-founder, who I had gone to college with, and I realized that there was no astrology dating app that existed. And this was at the moment when Tinder really came on the rise, and it had its competitor Hinge, and people were meeting all the time using their phones, swiping. So we were thinking, how could we create an experience that's going to be more spiritual, more mystical, something that actually has a fun entry point into it that isn't just like you're hot or you're not,
Yeah.
So we built Align, we raised some money for it, and that was back in 2014. To remind you guys of what was going on in 2014, Obama was president. Miley had just done her VMAs performance with Robin Thicke.
Oh, the twerk. It was the year of the twerk. Okay.
Twas a time to be alive. But, what's interesting is that at that time, astrology had not infiltrated popular culture in the same way it has now. Yeah. So when we'd go to these meetings with investors, they would say, like, astrology, really? Mm-hmm. Like, isn't that like, something? Isn't that something for like women in Santa Fe? Like, do people really care about that now? We're looking at millennials. Meanwhile, here's me and my friend, we're 24 years old, 2 millennials saying, like, astrology is important to us and people are talking about it. Yeah. So we ended up having to close shop in 2016 because we couldn't sustain it. It's very hard to run a tech business.
But you launched it. Before we say that, she launched this very ambitious astrology dating app. And I want to tell you, I was approached to do a couple of those, and I mapped out what it would take, because we cap risings. Astrologers are geeks, let me just say.
Yes.
We need to know math. We need to think in systems and flows and all those. Our minds can be flow charts. They have to be. So I mapped out what it would take to match. There's 78 possible matches. I've written them for my website, but to do that with technology, with an algorithm, that's a lot of work.
It is.
So, like, you deserve all the kudos for actually making that happen at 24, no less.
Thank you. Yes, it was, when I closed it in 2016, at that moment, it felt sort of like, what was this all for? Yeah. Why did I just spend 2 years of my life doing this?
I can feel that way.
And yes, absolutely. And then I realized through time why I did all of that. And that was laying the foundation for me to be able to build a successful business. So for those out there who are feeling discouraged as well in business, entrepreneurs who are not having as many clients, who aren't getting sort of the traction that they are really excited to get, do not worry, because everything is cyclical and you're practicing. You are learning how to do things so that when you have real big opportunities, you're going to already have experience in them, and then you can step up and be like, okay, I know what not to do, so that's great, because what not to do is definitely the thing to avoid. So it's important to have these experiences, even if you don't know why things are like not going your way. There's a purpose behind it. There's a reason. So 2016 was also the year Trump was elected. There was a big shift in culture after that, and suddenly astrology content became what it is today, which is desired and needed and wanted, and people are demanding a different lens in which to see the world.
Yeah. And the stars of that time actually, I'd say, catalyzed the rise of astrology too. But I love what you're saying about learning from the experiences, because I found that to be true as well. Like, I think, and I want to hear what you have to say about it, that to really have a mystical services or even a wellness services business in the 2020s, you have to really educate yourself about digital marketing, technology, how to use not just Instagram and that kind of thing, but SEO and email marketing and segmentation. If you really want to get into the game, you want to learn about your customers and do what's called A/B testing. You've probably heard about that. There is, just like with astrology or anything else, when you do someone's chart, it's you sort of go, all right, let me see if this, there's a spectrum here. Let me see if this theory fits you. If not, I'll tweak it and try another interpretation until we find what fits. Doing your business is kind of the same way. You're going to have to try some things before you hit the mark.
Definitely. No, I think that's beautifully and perfectly well said. It's super, running an astrology business or running any business that's under this umbrella is a business. And I think that's also something that needs to be formalized, right? If you are planning on starting a business, aka making money from your practice, you need to have an entity, you need to protect yourself, you need to know, you need to allocate your funds accordingly, you need to make sure that you have your personal and your business. These are all essential things, not just because you want to feel fancy and you want to feel like you are doing something important, but because it's going to allow you to scale and it's going to allow you to grow. And when you say to the universe, like, I'm taking myself seriously, I have this structure that's set up for business so that I can be successful, you are going to really feel that shift in doing someone's chart for free or doing someone's tarot cards for fun to this is actually informing the flow of my success and my business and how I'm going to continue to generate income for myself.
And the beauty of it is there are so many trainings and courses. We do our own Astropreneurs training to help people with that every year now. There's so much to learn that's accessible even for free on YouTube, or for take a course, take a workshop on business and the internet as well. So let's talk side hustles. Have you had any on the road to your astro career? I mean, I designed websites for years until I could finally sort of let go of my last client and do astrology fully.
Well, I guess astrology was my side hustle for a long time.
Interesting.
Until I made the complete switch. I'm what is the side hustle and what is define these things for us, because when I was building a line, I had to keep working because at that time investors wanted you to do something called sweat equity, which meant that you were not getting paid for your work despite the fact that you were doing it, and your salary was not being allocated within those investments. So I had to work as a waitress. So I was working as a waitress while building a line. So astrology was, I guess that was my side hustle. Yeah. But, did that.
It was your combo. You were a slasher, as they call it. Waitress, astrologer.
I was doing that to make money, and my focus was astrology. But then after a line ended and I moved back to New York, and I didn't know what I was going to do because I had this massive identity crisis, pre-Saturn return, progressed lunar opposition, second house, I was like, I guess I'm going to try to be a normal person and live a normal life. So I started to work as an assistant at a hedge fund, but all the while continued to practice and study astrology.
Sounds handy, actually.
Yes. So I was practicing astrology while working at the hedge fund. So I guess in that capacity, which one was my side hustle? I'm not sure, but
or did they all meld together?
Yes, everything has informed each other.
Cauldron,
yes, everything informed each other always. But I would say that something that is important to my story and something that I can definitely share in terms of sort of moving through all of these pieces of life to get where we are now is I continued to practice and study astrology because I loved it. And I did not think in 2016, even when Align was no longer, that I was going to be here with you now speaking about astrology and doing astrology full time. At that point, I had been studying astrology for 2 years, and I didn't feel equipped enough to call myself an astrologer. I just really loved it, and I just kept researching. And gradually and incrementally, these opportunities started opening up, and as they opened up, I was there and present to take them, and my business really scaled with my knowledge. So for people who are, who love astrology and they're like, oh, why am I not successful yet? But you only started 6 months, a year ago, give it time. You don't learn astrology overnight. It takes time to practice, and it takes time to integrate it fully into your flow so that you can become the professional that you want to be with it.
I mean, it should be seen as a lifelong learning process.
Yes.
I think I've been at it for probably since I was 21, and I'm not 21 or even close anymore. So, over a couple of decades and some change, I'm still learning, and you want to adopt that. I think to the sweat equity, choose your sweat equity accordingly. You never know. Sometimes you show up somewhere and you do a reading on the fly and you don't get paid, or you don't get the selfie with the influencer or whatever, but you build a relationship. You get, the person remembers you and recommends you to a friend. So, go where your people are. Go where, whether that's online or in real time, I would say, just show up where the people that you resonate with hang out the most. What have you experimented with tech-wise? Because you have a podcast called Stars Like Us. You have paper books, one for kids that has started a wave of astrology at my 4th grade daughter's elementary school, thanks to you. I love it. And you do something on Patreon too? Have you used? Yeah,
yes.
Let's talk about, because that has started to boom for people in mystical services. What do you think about platforms like Patreon and Kickstarter that people are using?
Well, I was very apprehensive about using Patreon. I've never done any sort of crowdfunding or crowd gathering before, but I was trying to think about how I could connect all of these amazing people who I talk to all the time in my day-to-day one-on-one sessions. It was like I would talk to somebody, and I'm sure that when you did readings or when you do them, you have this as well. There are so many synchronicities. So I'll talk to somebody who's a Taurus rising, then the next person I talk to is a Taurus moon, and the next person I talk to is a Taurus midheaven, right? And it's like all of these things come in at different times and in different ways, and each person could give the other so much wisdom and so much insight about their experience. So all of my clients are amazing. So I wanted them all to sort of meet each other. Obviously, I couldn't be telling their stories because I have
confidentiality.
Exactly.
Very
confidentiality.
important in this biz. Yes.
So I was trying to figure out how to build a virtual community, and so it goes, Patreon had the resources to do that. They had a platform that I could scale that on. So I created the Constellation Club, which is a membership community, and the hub of it is on Discord, which is basically like Slack. It is a 24/7 chat room. What's better than a chat room? And it's fabulous. People from all over the world are on it and connecting. We share stories. We support each other. We do coven meetings twice a month for the full moon and new moon. It's a lot of fun, and I love it. And it's interesting, blending business with obviously my passions and my values too comes into this as well. I want the Constellation Club to be affordable and to be accessible. But that's just my philosophy. I think that is also something that as one is building their own business, they can discover for themselves.
And it's your audience too.
Yes, it's your audience.
You might have a high-end audience that likes to pay, that values things that are expensive because it makes them feel a certain way. Or you might have curious people who are kind of more just out there maybe don't want to spend a lot of money, but really want that support and encouragement. So I like the idea of bringing community in as an element to a wellness business instead of being sort of in a silo as the guru talking to everybody, but getting people talking to each other as part of your business model is very interesting too. And then podcasting, that's so big now. How do you get your podcast out to the world, and how would you recommend others who are thinking about doing that share about theirs and get it viral or whatever?
Well, again, another thing I was apprehensive about. I was also apprehensive about starting my podcast last year because, I guess this year, but in 2020 it will be last year.
Okay.
And because I felt like there are so many podcasts. Do people really need another podcast? Like, okay.
Do we need another book?
Like,
do we need another anything?
But
apparently we do.
Apparently we do. And I think that one of the values that I have found in the podcast has been creating platforms for people to tell their stories. And to have a very cohesive place where all of these different people who have such interesting narratives, who have worked in such interesting ways and practices, can come and we can talk about what their life has looked like, what their experiences have been. We weave astrology into it, but nothing like that does exist. So I was happy for that too. When I sort of figured out the way that I wanted to structure it and what I wanted to say, I was like, no, this has legitimacy and this has purpose. It's very hard running a podcast. It is a lot of work, especially if you're running a podcast that is guest-based, because in addition to making sure that the audio files are good to go and released on time, you also are trying to find people, coordinate schedules, and people, it's not always easy. The first 10 people was like fabulous, and then after that it was like, okay.
Yeah, I'm a booker.
And then if you have to have podcasts that are banked so that you don't have to scramble if somebody cancels. And
there's a lot to think through, and that's something we Cap Risings, like I said, it's always a flow chart in our brains. So yeah, whatever you take on, know that there will be hours and technology, and you're going to have to map out your time. Sometimes we mystical people don't like to live in the linear time grid. I know I don't. I'm like, can I just lose track of time and channel horoscopes?
But we're also both the timekeepers of the zodiac.
Yeah,
so
it's an inconvenient assignment we've been given. But yeah, so I know I find myself saying, oh, there's so much technology these days involved in running a business. Prepare for that. I guess for our last question, I just want to ask you, like, what do you think maybe the thing for someone who wants to launch or expand or scale a mystical services business? Like, if there's one thing that they should know for the 2020s, no pressure, what might that be?
I think that where 22 degrees Capricorn in your chart exists is going to give you a lot of information about what 2020 looks for you. We have that point activated through Saturn and Pluto, and we also have that point activated through Jupiter and Pluto. So there is a lot of energy in that last decan of Capricorn, and I would encourage everybody to identify exactly where that 22 degree Capricorn mark is, and let that be the root of your meditation of thinking, what would I like to do? How can I bring this business into life?
So you'll want to do your chart, which you can do at astrostyle.com/birthchart. And I think we have a little explainer video. We'll find a way to explain this, maybe a little worksheet, how to find that 22 degree point and the house that it's in. So yeah, whatever house that point is in is the one that'll be activated. And
yes.
I know for me it's my first house, which is being visible. Hello, camera. Others will have other things. So, a little juicy astro assignment for you. I like that.
Homework.
Yeah. Cap Rising in the house. Thank you so much,
Thank
Aliza.
you so much. This is great.
Yeah, and where can people find you?
You can find me haunting the internet. I am on alizakelly.com, AlizaKelly. And then that's also my social handles on everything, Aliza Kelly. So I will see you there.
Yeah, thanks. Have a great year.
Thank you.